Hi everyone. My three different movement that I want to talk about are Japanism, symbolism, and primitivism. All right, let's get to it. The first I want to talk about is primitivism, and this movement took place around 1890 to the 1945. Um, it was more of an appreciation of artworks and craft from various countries or from faraway lands, and much of the artists that were working at that time, like Paul Gauguin, they actually appreciated this work, even though they tend to look at it as less advanced, but they appreciated it and took insights from those artworks and kind of worked on it and developed on it and moved it forward. Some famous artwork from those from the primitivism movement was Vision After the Salmon, and that was done in 1888 by Paul Gauguin, and Bears in a Room. It was done initially at 1909 by Ernest Ludwig Kirchner. I guess that's how you say that. And the other one that was done under this time of primitivism from 1890 till 1945 was Les de Mois Avignon in 1807 by Pablo Picasso. Um, so let's look at more. The next movement I want to look at is symbolism, and it's from 1880 to 1910. And this movement is typically characterized by the interest in, I would say, things that are very concerning to humans, like evil and good, life and death. And some of the permanent artworks from this generation was The Dance of Life um, by Edvard Munch, and Death and the Mask by James Ensor, and Death and Life by Gustav Klimt. Um, for The Dance of Life, it was done in 1899, well, between 1899 and the 1900. The Death and the Mask was done around 1897, and The Death and Life was done around 1908 and 1916. All right, let's look at the next one. My next movement that I want to talk about is Japanism, which was done around, which occurred around 1854 and 1920. Um, Much of it began from the interaction of Japanese uh, merchants or traders with Europeans, and they copied their arts and culture, and it became like almost a normal practice and part of life um, in the European world, in Europe. Some of the famous arts from that is Lady with Fan from 1917 to around 1918 by Gustav Klimt, and a portrait of Emile Zola, and it was done around 1868 by Edouard Monet, And another artwork that was done under Japanism was the sideboard, which was done around 1867 and 1870. And this was done by the artist Edward William Godwin. Let's see what's next. So now I want to talk about the similarities and the differences. Much of the movement that I've looked at, they depicted a lot of bright colors and affluence, and the scenes from normal human activities. So for the first one, the picture, the paintings, we saw that a bunch of females were congregated and they were looking at an artwork and kind of backing the viewer or the painter, and they were looking at this painting on the wall, you know. And so for the second one, it was another lady. She was just holding a fan and fanning herself. And I think this is kind of similar because both pictures are talking about women doing stuff. Even the third one, which is the dance of life, is actually still talking about females in some kind of activity. And so I would comfortably say that most of the painting actually depicted women doing stuff. Let's move on. So for my follow-up questions, or before I talk about this, I want to talk about how I have viewed these three movements that I've looked at. I've seen that much of it embraced technological advancement. As you know, they looked at it, and although they did not copy verbatim everything that came off of those movements or of those technological advancement, but they appreciated it and kind of worked around it to move on in their endeavors. So my follow-up questions are, looking at most of the painting and exhibition by most artists and most of the movement being considered, I am asking, why are most of the artists in the movement fascinated by female characters? I want to know why they chose to paint more pictures depicting women. So my second question is, considering that most artists painted more of women in their works, were women more influential and prominent in those societies? And if yes, were these painters employed by the women they painted? So I want to know if those women were richer or in better societal status for the artists to have painted them. So those are my questions. Thank you for listening. Bye.